Ladies and gentlemen, this has by far been one of the hardest positions I've done. Crazy news. Something I just dreamed up from day one. It could potentially be a good sign. Woo! Another new week. Let's make it a good one. Good morning and welcome to a day in the life. What I do as a recruiter, running my own agency, Kickstart Finder, in the technology industry. We are waiting eagerly, nail-biting, for some pretty crazy news in a really difficult overall year and job market that we're all experiencing. Just want to take you along for the ride and see if we can make it happen. So we're finishing up a nice little walk here, getting some sun, getting some sweat on before a busy work day. We'll see you in a bit. That hits a spot. And good morning, good morning. If you've been watching for a while, you know I love tea. I also love coffee, but to me, tea gives you that energy without the crash. I love green tea. I also love white tea, but recently I've been just combining them two for the past couple weeks for the extra energy, push, focus. Unstoppable. And still surprised to see no crash afterwards. So I'm loving it. Feeling great. I think it's my go-to energy stack. And if you want to check out the same teas that I drink, check out the links below and you can just pick yourself up. Would love to hear your experience with them as well. Always searching far and wide for new, better energy releases, teas out there. But before we get started, if you are as excited as I am to continue to make 2023 awesome and exciting and still a little bit stressful, but still very exciting, please consider supporting a fellow recruiter. Give us a like, subscribe, click that bell. By all means, I'm not a full-time content creator. It takes a lot of time and energy to make these videos for you. It would really mean a lot if you can just hit that button below. Also, if you haven't done so already, check out our free Discord channel down below where you can interact and surround yourself and collaborate with like-minded individuals. And also check out our podcast where we have really cool in-depth discussions with innovators and disruptors of the world. But enough of that, let's get started. All right, so the first deal that I want to speak about is actually from our teammate who absolutely crushed it from sourcing, from qualifying, screening, submitting to managing all the way to close. I stepped in at the final hours to help with negotiation close. And just to be completely transparent, all the other deals in this video are actually on my desk where I did everything myself from identifying, screening, qualifying to managing the interview process all the way up to the close, just to be fully transparent. This first deal, we made a video about this. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, make sure you stop right now, go back to the previous video and find it. But it's for a marketing manager role. It's for a type of role that I love to leave bandwidth on the side. I love marketing. I love digital marketing. I know the space also very well, but we were approached by one of my favorite aviation tech companies, global presence, dominant leader, and they were having a really tough time with their internal recruitment team for this role. So lo and behold, we reached out to me, we set up a conversation, we officially picked up that role. The cool thing about this client though is that the hiring manager, their CMO, was actually my candidate years ago, and I went from placing her to 2 to 3 other roles until she got this new CMO role, and now she's my client again, which is absolutely fantastic. So this is why it's really important to have a long-term horizon and developing and maintaining really strong relationships when you can. So the cool thing about this position is that it happened really fast. I would say our candidate was actually the 5th candidate that we submitted. We submitted 4 others, 3 of which also started interview process. And it was a smooth sailing just from there on out. Like he went through every single round, so did a couple other candidates. They ended up liking our candidate. They ended up moving forward to extending him an offer. That was actually surprisingly very smooth considering he was in process with other companies. I think what really helped us there was that he really ranked our client number 1. We were able to really do a good job in getting him excited, pitching him effectively, painting the vision at this company, and being able to kind of help him stay engaged. Now, what I do want to mention about this role is, if you've seen previous videos, is where it got a little bit shaky, a little bit challenging was what happened after an offer came out. We helped them with negotiations. They came out with 120. We got him up to 125. He was happy, but there was this slight little snafu where at that process, the internal recruitment team took over the onboarding process. They intentionally told us to take a step back, which we did. And then we thought it was just gonna be smooth all the way for him signing the offer letter, going through the onboarding process, and then starting on the first date. What we did not know, what they started implementing without us knowing, and what typically is not a big deal, is that they started implementing a drug test for this specific situation. And it was quite an interesting situation to navigate. Our candidates started getting worried. We started getting worried. We had to do a lot of research on the side, but lo and behold, everything worked out at the end. And if you just want to know future details about exactly what happened here, make sure you saw the previous video. But what was really cool about this position is that we only submitted about 6 candidates, one more after him. About 3 of them went all the way to the final round, including him. It was a solid close. We were able to engage him. He remained accessible and responsive throughout the whole process. The offer came out, negotiation was smooth. We're able to close, even with a slight little hiccup at the end. And now he started officially. He's crushing it and doing really, really well. And just any problems that we faced together is now in the back view mirror, where he can now focus on just doing the best that he can. So this deal ended up being $125,000. We had an 18% full-time direct placement fee with them, which brings home the entire placement to be $22,500. Our second deal was with an e-commerce client looking for a tech manager role that they just struggled with for, again, a very, very long time in this turbulent job market. They reached out to us, we picked this up, and boy, was this one difficult. This is so hard. Again, I talked about this in previous videos, but to give you a little high-level summary, this took us, I think, a little over 2.5 months. And the reason why it was difficult is they were looking for someone very, very particular. They were looking for a tech manager, someone who was like a software engineering manager who had really great management skills, but also was willing to be hands-on. They also needed someone to have really strong, experience and track record leading really big tech initiatives across cross-functional teams and stakeholders. They needed someone with their specific stack in terms of software engineering languages. They needed someone also ideally coming out of consumer-facing companies, D2C, direct consumer, or other e-com companies as well.
Looking for a needle in a haystack.
And not to mention that they had a super long interview process, about 5 to 6 different rounds. About 3 of them are extremely technical and long. Last but not least, they were able to pay this person a little bit below market. As you can imagine, you knew my thoughts and my fears going into this. I'm like, wow, can we actually get this done? Like, can we make this happen? But we always are up for any challenge. And like with any position, regardless of salary, seniority levels, fees, we do the best that we can. So this whole process took us about 2.5, 3 months. In that whole span of time, we submitted a little under 30 different candidates, and a lot of them made it to the first round, a good handful of them made it to the second round, and not a lot made it after that. They were extremely selective. And as you might know, if you're a recruiter who've been in these situations, this is tough. It requires you to be patient and bite your tongue and just keep your heads down and be consistent as much as possible, hoping that you can find a really great candidate that would just stick and check off all the boxes. Not to mention they also have to do really well on the cultural personality spectrum as well. The criteria with respect to that the company was also extremely picky on. So it was just we had a situation on our hands, but at the same time we made it a priority every single week. And I think the biggest thing here is to utilize every channel at disposal, be really creative with candidates in your database, really creative with candidates that you've already reached out to. How do you pique interest? How do you sell them? How do you paint that picture? Even though the salary was much lower compared to other companies candidates could have gone to in an already really difficult job and turbulent job market. So I think if you're watching this is the biggest value that us recruiters give to companies. A lot of times, and it still shocks me today, people wonder, what do recruiters actually do? We don't just send resumes. We get people excited. We're your outsourced sales team in the trenches, reaching out to people who most likely never heard of your company, and most likely if they saw your website, they probably would have never applied in the first place. We go in there and we understand exactly what about you guys make you tick compared to other companies, and use that, personalize it to whoever we're reaching out to so that we can increase engagement and excitement and overall create out of nothing a really strong candidate pipeline. And that's what we do time and time again. So whether you agree or disagree, I think recruiting, a lot of it is sales, right? It's all about getting people excited, outreach, target, personalization, visualization, being able to paint that picture to whatever the candidate's needs or wants are, and then to be able to put the two together and making it happen. So this becomes even particularly more necessary when you're working with a very selective client who knows exactly what they're looking for, and you know it's going to be very difficult because what the market can offer and what they're looking for, there's a little bit of a mismatch. So that's where we come in, where we can kind of, grease the wheels, if you will, try to get the client to be a little bit more open-minded, but at the same time, try to get the candidate excited about a company they normally wouldn't be, and then trying to take them through the entire interview process, maintain that excitement and positivity, and get the job done. So that's exactly what we did here. And I think that we just stayed very regimented and systematic with, following up with previous candidates, with reaching out to new ones, with utilizing every channel at our disposal. And then we lucked out. As I said, what really made this also challenging is that the interview process was quite long. Our candidate was in process with many other companies. A lot of them would have been able to pay him a lot higher. But the good news here is that he ended up just loving the mission and the team and the product, all of which we continue to just remind him and reiterate throughout the interview process to have him focus on like what he really loves about the opportunity versus all the other distractions, and got him all the way to the final round where, we were crystal clear on the salary. He was okay with it because he was excited about all these other things. So when an offer came out, negotiations honestly didn't really happen because there's nothing to negotiate about. The only thing that we really had to kind of check on is like, hey, is he engaged? Is he still excited? Does he have other offers? He was expecting a couple other offers that are higher, but lo and behold, we were able to kind of work closely with him, really offer that 5-star service and going back and forth between them and the company, answering any questions that he has. And ultimately, he decided, to much of our relief and gratitude, to accept the offer, leaving this as another really difficult position we're able to do. So this one specifically, the candidate ended with a starting salary of $180,000. We agreed to a fee of 15% for the first role, only because, hey, in this tough market, you gotta sometimes agree with lower fees to get that business. And that's what we had to do here, but they did agree to a higher role for subsequent positions afterwards, which brings the overall placement commission fee for the team to be $27,000. As if this month honestly couldn't get better enough, we had a third deal that I wanna share with you. So this actually was with an amazing client that's building a really fantastic data solution and service supporting the clean tech ecosystem. They're a super small, well-capitalized startup, and the VP of that company actually reached out to us because she got an amazing referral from one of our previous clients. And if you've been watching and you're a solo recruiter, you run a small team, one of the best ways to get new business in this market is from previous clients. Now, because they were small, that added an element of challenge because, as you know, 2023, the job market is extremely competitive. People generally have a lot more wariness and just cautious overall about startups in general. They were looking for a principal engineer. They were looking for someone who was strong full stack, so Python, Django on the back end, JavaScript on the front end, and they were looking for someone also very specific. They want elements of kind of DevOps in there, cybersecurity in there, web protocols, authentication, and also someone specifically within a minority or diverse background. I think this was super cool because it's always great to see small companies willing to kind of throw themselves in a recruiting process, making it more difficult going after diverse talent. But the reason why this is always a great thing to do is because if you can do this well and you can build an initial team that's truly diverse, then you really have a truly diverse team and company. What a lot of companies do is that because it's already hard enough to recruit and hire in tech, they just get whoever they can. And whether it's homogenous, whether it's the same type of background, a lot of companies end up thinking about diversity when their company's already a 30-person, 50-person, 100-person. By that time, it's very difficult to now make a diverse team because you have to hire a lot more to really make the entire team diverse rather than just hiring, one or two diverse people or with different background and, hoping that your team becomes more diverse. And what usually happens there is that unfortunately people end up leaving or the culture doesn't really end up changing all that much. So it's really great to see in this turbulent market, a small startup that's willing to place diversity, specific backgrounds as a priority because that's the type of culture they want to bring, and all power to them. But with that said though, it makes identifying and sourcing and screening candidates that much harder. Here, we had a giant placement percentage set up at 20%, as the referral just said nothing but amazing things about us, the company, and they were excited to partner up with us. So for this relationship, we agreed to a 20%. Thanks a lot, and really, really having so much gratitude to our client that was able to refer us, and we got the search started. Now, the interesting thing about this particular client is we got the search started, we picked it up right away and started multiple campaigns, reaching out to our database, utilizing different tools and platforms that we have access to, and try to see like what we can do here. And again, I think the difficult thing is in this market where overall sentiments are kind of against smaller companies, it's even more important to really understand who is your client, how do we effectively pitch them, because you can just pitch them any way that you want and then your engagement can be very, very low. It's all about like, who are you talking to? What do you think your target customer is this time, the candidates? What do you think they really want? Or what do you think would get them really excited about this role? So even things like, for example, the culture, their values, like the products and services they're building for clean tech, that's like super mission oriented, right? That's going to resonate a lot with people. These are some of the things that went through my mind. We created an extensive list. We were on the same page with me and my team to kind of get the role started, and I started sourcing right away. Now, high level in terms of submissions, we submit up to 9 candidates before our 10th one. Now, out of 9 candidates, 7 of them went through to the first round, which is fantastic because we always strive to submit with the intention that they're going to get an interview, because we want to do our best to make targeting on point from day one, because we're not here to waste our time. We're not here to waste our candidates' time. Most importantly, we're not here to waste our clients' time. Our 10th candidate ended up being the one candidate ended up going through all the rounds. What was challenging about this role was that when we picked it up, they originally slated to have a $200K cap for a salary. They of course offered equity and benefits. The VP also shared with me that if we found someone that wanted something a little bit more, they could make something happen a little bit. And so we operated under that assumption that if we talked to a candidate who was like, hey, Preston, like this company in this position is everything I'm looking for, but I'm looking for 205, 210, 220, like, is that okay? And so like, our assumption was that was okay. So our candidate actually was okay for 200, but ideally she's like, hey, I'd be looking for probably 210 to maybe 220 because I'm already at 200 now, right? So I kind of want to, in an ideal scenario, have a step forward in my career. And so we operated with that assumption and we took her through the entire process. All the other candidates went through the first, second, third round. The interview process at this client was also very, very long. They have about 6 to 7 different rounds. So all of this took place in roughly about a month and a half as well. When our candidate was nearing to the final round, she aced all the technical rounds where most people faltered. And then the last 2 rounds were pretty straightforward. Downhill, cultural, meet and greet with the VP and the client, and it was smooth sailing to the offer. Now, when the offer came out, lo and behold, it came out with 120. Followed up with our candidate. Our candidate's like, hey, can they come a little bit higher? I followed up with our hiring manager, the VP. She's like, nope, 200 is the cap. So that was a really big boo-boo because, you know, if that happens, then the candidate feels like we intentionally misled them or the company intentionally misled them. That could just blow back and make the whole experience negative, and we don't want that to happen. We don't ever want to feel like we're going against our word, or we want to make the candidate feel like, you know, we told them one thing when it's actually another thing. But, you know, thankful here is that, again, we were effective in pitching the position. The team ended up being everything our candidate wanted. So even though she was a little bit disappointed about the salary, everything else made sense. Now, when she finally got over that hump about that salary, she's like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention, but like, I'm okay being fully remote, but now I kind of want more of like a flexible schedule. I want a 4-day work week. And I'm like, that's asking a lot. Because apparently she's interviewing with a couple other companies. They offered her that, and that was in and of itself, I think, a huge driver for her to just join another company, even though our client at that time just checked off all the boxes. And so I ran to the hiring manager, and hiring manager's like, we have no idea, I gotta talk it over. It took them about 3 to 5 days to talk it over internally to see if like they can make something happen. Like, what does that mean? 4 days a week? Maybe we can do 4 days. Maybe we can make 1 week out of the month 4 days, or every other week, or maybe it's all about not so much which days you work, it's all about the total hours that you work per week. But this went on a lot. And even though it was 3 to 5 days, it felt like forever because I'm like, wow, we kind of got over that salary hump. Our candidate actually made it to the end. She's still somehow very excited, but she's moving forward with other companies. Like, is this actually going to work? And can we actually make this happen? And I thought this 4-day work week request was going to be done. Like, we're going to lose it. Our can's going to go to another company. And what really helped here is that we decided to be the supporting role, be the ancillary secondary role here, allowed our candidate and hiring manager. And this is something that I personally do. I know that when I first learned recruiting at a staffing firm, it's all about, we need to control everything. We need to control the relationship, control the offer. Honestly, like, having done this for almost a decade, I'm now at the perspective, like, I'm here to make the client and the candidate's role as smooth and easy as possible. possible. And if they prefer to talk directly and that's effective, I'm happy to just follow up with them, have another conversation, see how I can help, and then rinse and repeat. And so that's exactly what happened here, especially when like they had to just go back and forth about the minute details about what a flexible or 4-day work week could look like. They went through a lot of discussions. She talked to other co-founders. This took another like half a week, almost a week now, after the 3 to 5 days where they discussed internally. And I was just sitting on my chair, biting my nails. And then I think with recruiting, a lot of that is like that. You can do your best, and at the 12th hour, sometimes you just have no idea how the cards would fall. And for example, like earlier this year, they would just completely fall against you. And this time I felt completely lucky where at the end of the day, our client was able to kind of push back on terms that she liked about the flexible work week. They were able to still remain firm, but they tossed in a sign-on bonus, came up a little higher on the equity, great benefits, great team. And our candidate finally accepted. Now, because this was 20%, this was a huge deal for us. The ending salary was $200,000. Our fee was 20%. So we took home as a team $40,000. All right, so far it's been a really busy day. Spoke to about 5 different candidates, picking up possibly a new client today. And I am just nail biting, waiting for one more offer that's potentially pending. So we are working again with our aviation tech client who engaged with us for a principal product engineer role. This has by far been one of the hardest positions I've done.
Sticky situation to be in.
Because we're talking months. I would say 3.5 months of just sourcing and submitting candidates on the weekly to find this one candidate who made it all the way to the final. The reason why this was challenging is they needed someone specifically with financial backgrounds, internal financial tools, ERPs, payments processing, to really drive their payments and back-end subscription-based solutions and platforms that they're developing. And they're looking for someone that not only had this, but someone that also worked at a consumer-facing company, ideally a tech company. Ideally something that's direct consumer, because a lot of the product manager professionals typically would have these skills are coming from legacy established companies, and that's just not going to be a good fit. And so we just did our best, like worked our butts off to make this happen, and to really, most importantly, make sure that we have a steady stream of candidates that we can supply them every single week, each candidate hoping that they would be the one. And I'm really happy with the work that I've done here. Had some help with the team, but the candidate that ended up going through to the rounds was one that I personally sourced. I did outreach, I qualified them, I navigated the entire process. Kudos to this candidate, but he made that process easy every step of the way. And the thing with my client is that their interview process is quite long, but I also know that when they really like someone, they just accelerate like crazy. And if you've been watching for a while, you know that my MO all the time is to condense and accelerate the interview process as much as possible. And it's usually just me having to like go back to my client saying, hey, can we accelerate for X, Y, and Z? It's always great to be a joint effort where I want to accelerate, the client wants to accelerate even more, to do whatever we can to get this candidate. And so this search has been going on super long. We were doing our best. Our client was just amazing at being responsive every single week. And I really appreciate them just being thankful. And while we had a lot of few close calls, I think we had the 2 or 3 that made to the final that got rejected. We had one that made to the final. It seems like right now the initial feedback is looking positive. So what I'm waiting for is just a little bit later today, our candidate's going to sync up with their chief of staff for just a debrief call. And this is typically what the client does when they want to make an offer to someone. So I know going into this, it could potentially be a good sign. Now, I don't know what they're going to come out with. They said that for this specific role, it's going to be $200K all in, based in bonus, which we clearly established with the candidate, and the candidate up until now is okay with that. So if they're able to come out with that, our candidate is not interviewing elsewhere, which is news to my ears. So there's no bidding wars and no complex negotiations or timelines that we have to be wary of. This could be a smooth close. I mean, what we've done this month have already just exceeded my expectations. Again, I'd just be happy with one deal. The fact that we're at 3, possibly a 4, and this could be a huge one, is just something that I just dreamed I could do when starting out in this career, this crazy career that we find ourselves into. So now I have to wait to see exactly like what happened. So hopefully next time I talk to you, it'll be some good news. We can see exactly what they talked about, hoping an offer is discussed, hoping good terms come out, and we can see what we can do. Oh my God. So the call happened. It's great news. Nevertheless, an offer came out. The candidate's ecstatic. But then they came out with a salary of 170 with only a 10% bonus, which basically makes everything around 180s really, really far from 200. Now, if you're watching this, you're like, well, Preston, that doesn't seem like a huge difference. Perhaps it's not, right? 20,000, 15,000, it's still a really big gap in my mind, and that's an issue. And so lo and behold, I got a call from my candidate saying, hey, we need to chat. I just spoke with him and he's like, hey, I'm excited. I really am. Yeah. Like the company's everything I'm looking for. It's my in to further my career in tech. Yeah. The position, the scope is something that I'm confident I can just kick butt in. But the issue is salary. Like, what's going on here? You told me 200K, they told me 200K, and then they came out with 180. So again, it does not make me or the company look the best in any way. I genuinely and authentically apologize as best as I can, saying, hey, it was our understanding that they could do 200K. I'm just as shocked as you are that they came out with 170. Like, come on. And so what happened was after that call, they agreed actually to sync up a little bit later today, asking, hey, the candidates, if you have any other questions, let me know. I spoke with the candidate. He's like, hey, I just want to go back and see if they can go any higher. I'm going to talk it over with my wife. I'm going to think it through, and we'll just see where the cards fall. And at this point, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen because, you know, a lot of people, if they found their dream job and they'd have to kind of give up 10, 15K, 20K, a lot of them would do that because they know that, hey, oh, you can take one step backwards or maybe 2 or 3 steps forward long term. But I knew that for my candidate, like the compensation was really, really important. He's a sole breadwinner in his family. He has kids, a lot of personal responsibilities and obligations. So I totally get it. And so, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I don't think this is going to happen. Like, I don't even know how much my company can even go higher. I asked the company if they can initially through email, and they're like, hey, not so much, maybe not at all. And we'll see. I mean, if our candidate wants to negotiate, like we will, of course, encourage them to do so, and we'll try to help as best as we can. Our candidate also asked us if, like, hey, he can just negotiate directly because it's something that he's always done in his career. It worked out well. And if we're okay with that, then he wants to do that. And so I'm like, cool, I'm more than happy to. Just let me know how I can help. Let me know how the conversation goes. I think they're going to sync up probably later this evening. The chief of staff is actually in a different time zone, and my candidate's like fully booked for the rest of this day. So now it's just kind of a waiting game. Is it going to happen tomorrow? Is it going to happen tonight? Like, who knows? I tried to kind of go back to my client and see what kind of wiggle room they have. They're very just like, you know, cards to the chest type of approach and mentality. And so I didn't really have any visibility there. But I also knew that, like, when I first picked up this role, they're like, hey, Preston, we don't have that much wiggle room. And so the fact that they came out lower than my original intended range just shows me, wow, they probably don't have wiggle room at all. But, you know, I am clearly communicating this with my candidate. He kind of feels the same way. I still think there's a small chance he might even accept at 170, but like, man, I want to do whatever we can to get the candidate what he wants, or to help fight for him, to bring him to a point where he can feel just really, really good about this deal. So I'm going to sync up. He's going to mull it over, have a lot of connections, have a little conversations with family and friends and advisors, and we'll see what happens. And either way, at this point, super grateful for how this month's turning out, how this year is turning out, despite everything that we're kind of going through, and we'll just see how the cards fall. Honestly, 50-50 at this point, like who knows? But I'm hoping the recruiting gods are in our favor right now and it can go our way, but we'll see. We'll just have to do our best, be positive, be support, put out some good vibes, we'll see what happens. Just to be clear, when I make videos like these, I'm in no way trying to brag or to show you all I'm just a master or some sort of guru in recruiting. I'm just, you know, a guy doing his best and taking you along for the ride, and just wanted to show what could happen if you just stay in the game and you keep betting on yourself no matter what challenges. And I've been doing this long enough. I've been in really difficult situations, and I gotta tell you that this year alone is unlike anything I've ever experienced before. Harder to develop new relationships with clients, lower fees, candidates ghosting, clients ghosting, all of the above. And it really, really challenged me. And I'm sure a lot of people in that same situation. I don't know how next month's gonna go. I don't know how the rest of the year is gonna go, but I do know that I can count on myself to just show up, do the basics, get smarter, optimize over time, focus on long-term relationships, and just hoping, and now not hoping so much, I know that it works, that the good work will always compound. And sometimes, you know, in your weakest or challenging moments. A good referral comes in, or your old client reaches out to you saying, hey, we're hiring 5 roles, right? Anything the rock star candidate just decides to accept when they're on vacation or something, right? You never know, your greatest success and your wins is right around the corner. And if you just give up and stop now, you'll just never experience that. And it could be times where you feel like you're just showing up and nothing's happening, but you just gotta keep showing up. And that's just what I've done. And that's what I continue to do. And in a business model where it's direct placements, it's very, very rocky, very, very unpredictable. You gotta kind of eat what you kill every month and every week. You gotta really be on your A game. If you wanna, not show up, you're not feeling well, you still gotta perform 100 to 200% every single day regardless. And if you're hearing this, you're like, well, that sounds exhausting. It is exhausting, but it's also great. And I hope that one of the biggest things I can show on this channel is the great positive benefits of being a recruiter. You can impact people's lives. You can change your life. You can meet amazing people, and all of that just compounds. So I'm just like super, super grateful that we're being able to, see the wins. And again, a lot of it, a good handful, it's always luck. You never know. Sometimes on the wire, it's 50-50, sometimes 60-40, 70-30, and it goes your way. I'll take it. But I just want to be as transparent and honest as possible. I show the losses, I show our wins, and it just goes to show that, the past couple years I've been turning the camera on, it has been some of the greatest months and years of my career. And for that, I'm just very grateful, and even more grateful to you all spending your time following me on this journey and even just reaching out. And I'm so sorry for those I haven't responded to. Again, I don't create these videos full time. They take a lot of effort to squeeze in during my busy days, but I'm hoping that I can give you value and help you laugh or learn a thing or two about this. And again, always just trying to be better. And I listen to and I see every comment. And if you think that some of the videos are weak, or I could have gone more in depth, again, just trying my best. I don't have a massive content team behind me with tons of research. I'm just trying to be a successful recruiter while trying to make videos on the side, and always would be open-minded and listen to any criticisms or feedback and just try to do better so I can give you the most value as possible. So this just goes to show, without ranting too much, that things can be possible when you just bet on yourself. And I know that what I do is just can seem like amazing, incredible for many, but also what I do compared to others is just a drop in the ocean, right? And so the fact that we're on the precipice of trying to cross over $100,000 a month again is something I just dreamed up from day one, and I don't take for granted when it does happen. And just sharing this with you, I'm also just very nervous because I'm like, is it gonna happen? Is it not gonna happen, right? Are we gonna be under 100, or are we gonna be able to break through that? And it just comes down to this one deal. But just want to be real and share with you that, hey, believe in yourself, stay focused, work hard. I know it sounds cliche, you hear it and see it everywhere, but it's true. If you give up on everything, right? And whether you give up and watch someone else do what you want to do, or you see someone doing what you want to do, both avenues are very difficult. Whether you have to watch on the sideline to doing it yourself, either way, if you're going to have action, bet against yourself, go for it. Don't give up. We're all in this together. If I can help, I'd help in any way. But appreciate you all. And I'll see you soon, hoping that we hear back from a candidate about some good news. Fingers crossed. All right, it is later in the day. The candidate actually synced up with our client. Now, the good news is that the candidate is still excited. The not so best news is that he wants to negotiate, but that's technically still good news. So he went in with a plan. He emailed me beforehand saying, hey, I still want to try to see if they can come up to that 200K all in. I'm not, expecting them to do it. Any little wiggle room can help. I think with the current terms as they are, the candidate still remains very engaged and very excited. And with me, I don't really know or have visibility in terms of the wiggle room that my client has. So I don't know how I feel going into the situation as well, but I told them, hey, you have every right to negotiate. Negotiation is something that happens when an offer takes place. And it's something that you should not be afraid of doing. You have every right to do so. If you want to ask for the moon, shoot for the moon. See what happens and see how the cards fall. So that's exactly what he did. It seemed like they had a really good discussion. Okay, so lo and behold, the candidate had a really good chat with the chief of staff, my client, and to my surprise, they were able to come up. And so the candidate told me they weren't able to do 200, but they did increase the salary from 170 up to 180. And if you factor in that 10% bonus, all in cash, he's at 198, which is pretty darn close to 200. The candidate did tell me he's feeling overall pretty good about this, which is like the words I need to hear right now. I've just been literally waiting today, not to mention I'm working so hard the past couple months to make this happen, and things are looking really, really good. He says that he just wants to go home, take a breather, talk it over about his wife and family, and hoping that he can get back to me later today, maybe in the evening, late afternoon, with this final decision. So that's moving really, really fast. I'm just really happy that the client was able to come up. I know that they had so much patience working with me, waiting for multiple months. I wish I would have closed it sooner, but in terms of what they're looking for, the nature of the job market and the comp bands, it was really, really challenging. But we do not back down from a fight. We continue to be consistent every single month, really keeping our targeting on point and making sure that we just keep on delivering the best results that we can. Our candidate finally got a negotiated offer. I'm so happy that they were able to come up. I think I went from like a 60-40 to now almost like a 90-10 that he would accept now, which is fantastic. But it's not official until I got the confirmation, until he signs the official offer. So we're still kind of in a waiting plan. I'm going to wait a little bit later and hoping that I can sync up with the candidate, hoping with the final decision, hoping he doesn't have that many more questions. It did seem like the conversation he had with my client, it was pretty comprehensive. He spoke with the chief of staff today for a little over an hour, and also, he spoke with them before as well. So I think he's feeling pretty good. Not too many concerns, not too many red flags. He has other irons in the fire with other interview processes, but he just loves my client, which is music to my ears. So biting my nails still and hoping to get this done. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Seriously, both hands, toes crossed, and hoping for some good news. Good morning, and so much for a day in the life video. Unfortunately, did not hear back from our candidate. He still had to kind of take more time. Totally understandable. To mull things over, think about his options, talk about it with friends and family and advisors. But he did say that he wanted to sync up with me sometime today, hopefully sooner than better, about his final decision. And so I was frantically, eagerly waiting all the yesterday. Didn't pan out. It's a beautiful day, sunny, feeling great. And I'm hoping we can end this week here with fantastic, unbelievable news. If this closes, possibly can be another record or close to a record on my own desk in one single month. So just overall excited and grateful and blessed, but now extremely kind of laser focused on just whatever I can do to get this done, to help my clients hire someone that they're excited about, and to help my candidate with any concerns that he may have about this role. So I'm going to enjoy this morning walk here, something I try to do daily, especially when the weather's nice. Even if I can't properly work out, it's great to just go out, get some sun, get some steps in. So when I go back home, take a shower, I feel great to make an awesome day. So fingers crossed, let's make this happen. So one thought that I just wanted to share that I've been noticing a lot, especially the more that we're talking to founders and companies quite often, is just the fact that a lot of teams, hiring managers and founders don't really take the function of recruiting and talent acquisition seriously, whether it's from the perspective of working with external partners or whether it is looking at their people or TA function inside internally with, I think, the level of optics and visibility and respect that frankly I believe it deserves. I think a lot of times founders and hiring managers treat talent acquisition, TA, or recruiting as kind of a second thought, right? It's like, you got a lot of money, you're profitable, you need to grow. Now let's hire a recruiter. Oh my God, like layoffs, recession, let's get rid of recruiters. So it just breaks my heart that the cycle for recruiting and the hiring for recruiting for internals are just so correlated with the market, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I just wish it was more stable. And I think that if done properly, having the right TA person internally can be an enormous force and value for any companies, even for small startups. I think there's so much time sink that founders go into to find good talent beginning. There's so much time wasted. And so of course, like, it makes sense for founders to work with external partners like us, but for those thinking about hiring people for internal purposes, like, we should be looking at TA with more respect, with more importance, with more significance, because what we can do and the value that we can bring is so much more than just introducing resumes and showing resumes to the founders. We are the front lines, the outsourced salespeople. We're the gatekeepers of a company. We save you time, we save you money, and we just make sure that your headcount and your growth trajectories can continue very, very smoothly. So it's just been sad seeing on the market all these recruiters with no jobs now. How I've even heard from numerous founders, like, just they look at recruiters as more of like a secondary thing as part of their team and not as important or critical as marketing or sales or engineering in a product. So you may agree or disagree. Of course, I'm a little bit biased because I am part of the recruiting industry. But I think talent acquisition is one of the most important, like finding the right person for your team that aligns with your culture. What could be more important than that? If you hire the wrong person, that could end up costing you so much time and money and just go backwards. And so I am excited and proud to be in recruiting. And if you're watching this and you're also in the recruiting industry, I want you to also feel the same way as well. I think what we do is incredibly important. We provide really important value to a lot of companies and teams. And we're a massive industry. Whether or not you've heard of recruiting for the first time watching my channel and watching my videos, multi-billion-dollar industry globally. There's never a better time to be a recruiter. There's never a better time to work as a solo recruiter, independent recruiters or recruitment consultants. Shout out to people in the UK or Europe who use that title, headhunters, staffing, and we're all in this together. And so love what I do. I hope that we can do whatever we can to elevate recruiting together. Ladies and gentlemen, we got some pretty crazy news that I want to share with you. So it is mid-afternoon here and this whole day has been going back and forth between me and my candidate, helping to provide advice on how he should negotiate and continue to go back and forth between him and my client, me and my client. It's like a complicated triangle of a relationship and a three-way communication here that's just been keeping us super busy and nervous and stressed out at the same time. But after everything, after doing our best to guide our candidate through the process to make sure the client's still happy, to make sure the candidate's answers and question marks and concerns had all been answered, just got off the phone with my candidate and he's like, you know what, Preston, thought it over. The conversations today helped a lot. Checked it with my family, checked it with my advisors and my immediate friends and close network. And I'm happy to say that I will accept the offer. Let's go. Woo! So that concludes this month where we not only have done 3 offers, we've done 4. And just goes to show like what we could do, just doing our best to make it happen, be there for our candidates, be there for our clients, trying to see, how we can help, try to predict future outcomes and try to mitigate any challenges and obstacles behind the scenes. Of course, like it was stressful, it's up and down, there's highs and there's lows, but it just goes to show what could be happened if you just stay committed to the process and just focus on the candidate experience. And man, I'm just so pumped for my candidate. I'm so excited. This was a super important decision for him. This will essentially create a new chapter in his career where he can, work and at a very reputable, dominant tech company and use this as a fantastic stepping stone to grow within the company, but also hopefully, to grow in his career beyond the next many, many years to do great things. So I am just eternally grateful and committed and just appreciative to the candidates and clients that continue to trust us of really making important decisions and just helping every step of the way. I do want to say that, while the commissions and money is great, really that's just a reflection of the service that we provide and just the consistency that we just stick to as best as we can. So the final conclusion, if you're wondering what the actual salary was, for this specific position, the agreed upon final salary was $180,000. It came up from $170,000 as I was sharing with you before. And with the bonus, he was basically at $200,000. It took a little bit of a negotiations and wiggle room and kind of pushing on both parties to get to where it is now. But I'm so pumped the candidate is happy and he doesn't have any other questions. He's shutting down all the other interview processes with other companies. And that's just a huge win for me and my team. It's 18% fee, which brings our entire total commission to $32,400. And if you're wondering what we managed to do this month, the total has come out to $121,000. $100,000, 4 deals, 3 of them on my own desk. One of them, shout out to my team member who absolutely crushed it, but also just shout out to him for just being with me, helping me stay sane, and just navigating this entire process. It is a journey. It is a marathon sprint. And the fact that we were able to break the 6 figures per month on my own desk with no VAs, no AIs, no ridiculous tools, just pure recruiting, just to be as transparent as possible. Just very, very grateful, especially considering it being a tough year. So I hope that this, if you're watching this, can motivate you and inspire you that I was just like you, average guy, just doing my best. Even before I started my recruiting career, the most I got paid was $30,000 a year. And that's me with even a business degree. So to go from 30 grand a year to breaking over $100,000 a month, this is not the first time I've done this. I've done it a handful of times now. Most of it actually caught on camera with you all. Is just absolutely unreal. I never take it for granted, and I never take the future for granted, and will do whatever I can just to try my best. And again, very grateful for the companies and the candidates we work with. Just goes to show we will do whatever we can to drive results over and over and over again. And if you can just stay committed, put your heads down, focus on the long term, not so much short term. Focus on building relationships. I promise you time and time again, it will compound over and over and over again. I don't have a huge team behind me. I'm not using some crazy AI tools behind me. I'm just always focusing on the fundamentals of recruiting, always finding out how can we do things better? How can we provide more value? How can we give people just a better experience with recruiting if they had more of a negative experience before? Like any people that we touch, we just want to be able to leave that experience, that relationship better than when we first met initially. So that's all we focus on doing, just doing the best that we can. And if deals don't happen. But I'm just always grateful. We'll always be positive, and we'll always show up and try to do the best that I can. So please, if you're in this, if you're struggling, I feel you. It's been a crazy, crazy year. It took a long time for me to get to where I am right now. But if I can do it, you guys can do it. Let's just stay focused, reach out to me anytime, and let's all together get excited for the rest of this year, and let's elevate recruiting together. I'll see you on the next one.